And we built that bike.
So your son still rides?
No, he doesn't have a bike right now. He wants to.
You guys are bikeless, both of
He
you.
keeps telling me
A lot
that
of bikes.
he wants me to. He lives in North Carolina now. That was Darla's bike. I built that for her.
No, she was riding with you.
Yeah, she could ride fine. It just when she pulled up and stopped, she would just drop the bike, and I'd have to go over and pick it up. I go, you can't. And then I took her to a church parking lot, and there was like a huge parking lot, like this campground. And there was one little area where there was a curb, and it was like a magnet. And she went right over there, went with the pipes. I said, I ran over, I pull the clutch in. I kept telling her, when you get into trouble, if you pull the clutch, it's not going to move. It's going to stop. And
Oh man.
so anyway, this was one of my production bikes. I built for a guy.
Quite a portfolio.
Oh, I built hundreds of bikes.
Jeez.
And I did repair, service. I did motors, transmissions.
Oh, Bill, you could. I mean,
That's my paint work there too.
you could. I mean, are you going to set up a little shop for just?
Well, that
Yeah.
was my plan, but
taking around.
I don't know if I'm going to do it. It's not that easy to work. You know, it's hard to do. It's easier than working on motorhomes, but
Really mean pulling out transmissions and stuff like that.
yeah. There's me and Eric.
Oh yeah.
He's a little tiny guy.
You talking to him?
Fanatic?
Oh yeah, I see.
He's a little. I mean,
He's tiny.
he's just like a.
He's a midget.
Like a timeout dog.
What are you? What about 5'5" or so?
I don't even think
Yeah.
he's not even that
I
tall.
don't think he's that tall. Yeah.
Boy, he's
I stood a foot taller than him.
That was my Corvette. My kid and I painted that in my driveway.
man. I mean, I always I never had the. Nobody ever taught me how to do that stuff.
Well, you know how I learned how to do all that stuff was trial and error.
And
That was-
then good advice from people.
Well, working on the Harleys, man. That, like I say, there's a lot to working on motorcycles. And I had a guy one time, and he called me up and he says, "Hey, my bike, I can't get it to start. Can I bring it to you?" Okay, yeah, I'm a shop. That's what I do. So he brings this bike in, and he had his two sons. He brought it in on a truck, and I start looking at this bike, and I said to him, before we get started here, let me ask you a question. What are you going to do if I fix this bike, if I get it to run? He goes, I'm going to ride it. And I said, who built this bike? He said, well, I did. I said, have you ever built a bike before? He goes, well, I built things before. I said, have you ever built a bike before? He said, well, this is the first one. I said, well, if I won't get this bike running because it's not safe. He goes, what do you mean? I said, you don't have no idea how to put a bike together. And I'm not going to put something together and have you go out here and get killed.
Yeah.
And
He got pissed at you.
well, he's like, well, I need it to run. I said, it's going to cost you $6,500 for me to get it running. $6,500. I go, I'm going to take it all the way apart.
Put it back together.
And I'm going to put it back together right. And I said, when you come and pick it up, you'll be able to ride it out of here. But this thing is not safe.
Well, he should take the heat.
And I went over to his sons. I said, if you like your dad, if you want your dad around, you don't want to put this bike on the road. And he loaded it back up and took it out.
So that's another reason that that's one of the reasons in 35 years in the tobacco business, I've had one guy completely disappear in a cave. And so the liability, and he came out, he crawled out from under this wafer of clay being held up by this cleanout. And I went to get help. And so, but the liability was pretty heavy, and I can imagine somebody could try to come after you for this.
Well, I had
that.
insurance.
Yeah.
I had like a $3 million bond thing. But I dropped when I got diagnosed with diabetes, and they put me on metformin. I dropped 2 bikes off of lifts this high. I did $17,000 worth of damage between those 2 bodies, and I didn't put it on my insurance, so I paid it out of my pocket.
Okay.
And one, this guy wanted me to put this big tire on the front of his bike, and I told him, I go, that tire is too big. And he said, well, my buddy put one on his bike and he doesn't have a problem. It was a black guy too. I said, well, sorry, but this is not going to work. And he says, well, I won't hold you liable. I just want you to put the tire on.
Yeah, easy said.
So I thought, well, okay, he knew a bunch of people, and it would be like something to get maybe something rolling. So I put the tire on there. Well, next day he comes back. He said, well, the tire's rubbing on the fender. I said, well, I told you it was rubbing on the fender. And he said, well, can we check it out? And so I put it up on the lift, and I crank, there's like a vise that squeezes the tire. And the thing starts coming back, started rolling out of the vise. And he was standing right there. He could just went like this and stopped it. Well, he jumped out of the way, and the bike went over. And he's like, well, that's not my fault. That's not my fault. He had let all the air out of the front tire. We had like maybe 8 or 10 pounds of air in the front tire. And what happened is that vise grabs the tire, and it won't hold metal against metal.
Yeah.
And so I ended up fixing that bike. And then another bike I had done, I had done a lot of custom work on this bike. It was a beautiful bitchy bike. And Darla had detailed it, and she used to detail bikes. And she had done the tires and everything, and I put it up on the stand to just do a real quick check on it. And the owner of Terry Cable was there, and I went to go, I walked like from here to there, and I turned around and I saw that bike just go.
God.
Actually fell to the left. And the guy from Terry Cable just goes, wow.
Crazy.
And so I called the guy and I told him, he's like, dude, and the guy was real, he ended up committing suicide, but not over the bike.
Yeah.
I said, dude, you gotta let me fix it. I go, I'll make it right. I'm gonna go all through it. It'll be perfect when I'm done, but I'm gonna need like 2 weeks to do it. And he said, well, okay. And when he picked it up, he loved it. I mean, it was perfect. The bike was better than it was before. It was perfect. I'm gonna throw that. But anyway,
I gotta make a phone call. I gotta call my girlfriend.
yeah, we'll call her for me too.
Yeah, I better.
Huh.
I gotta check in.
Yeah,
Oh,
them girlfriends are high maintenance, aren't they?
well,
That's why I don't have
been
one.
Together about 9 years, which is, oh, Kirby, get out of Bill's way.
You're not gonna marry her?
Well, we might as well be married. I mean, we got a house together and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that living in sin's bad for you, man.
I
You need to
know.
be miserable like the rest of us.
With a
they
piece of
say-
paper.
Well, you heard the old saying that married men live longer than single men, or